Hey, I'm Dan Plurd. I'm the CEO of Intelli, an interoperability company with a no-code data integration platform for healthcare. I've been working in healthcare for about 10 years now. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what healthcare interoperability is, how HL7 plays into that, the different standards of HL7 and what they're good for. So we have a broad conversation about what healthcare interoperability is. The general concept of exchanging patient, clinical, financial, and any other pertinent data that's relevant to, healthcare systems and healthcare applications. So it's basically key to creating efficient workflows across organizations between different healthcare technology products that enable better patient care and better efficiency. Unfortunately, technology is really only half the battle. There's a lot of stakeholders in healthcare, and aligning those stakeholders around these interoperability challenges is actually more difficult than implementing the technology to solve them. HL7 is a common standard in healthcare that dictates the format of how healthcare data is exchanged. It's a set of international standards that's been around for a very long time that sets the format of how different software applications talk to one another. The primary one that's used is HL7 version 2. HL7 version 2 is one of the oldest and most commonly used standards. It's widely adopted by healthcare organizations. All the EMRs support it, and is the way that most healthcare organizations interface data between their systems and with their vendors. It's built on an event-based structure, so an event will generate a message. That message is typically sent over a VPN TCP/IP connection between systems. Some of the common use cases around that are admit, discharge, transfer when a patient is admitted, discharged, or transferred, scheduling and appointment notifications, labs and orders, and financial transactions on DFT messages. And so the good thing about HL7 version 2 is that it's an event-based notification. So it doesn't require anybody to query to check if an event happens. It's a continuous stream of notification, which makes it a very efficient process once it's set up. Unfortunately, with HL7, you need to set up a VPN connection and a discrete channel for that message, which does take a little bit of work. Recently, HL7 released FHIR, which is technically version 4 of HL7. FHIR is a newer web services standard of HL7. So we've gone from HL7 version 2, which is widely adopted. HL7 version 3 was not widely adopted. And now we're on HL7 FHIR, which is technically version 4. FHIR caters to newer applications, cloud-based applications that really communicate through APIs, and opposed to an HL7 message, which represents a full data set for a typical event. FHIR is built on very small transactional units of data. So it's commonly used for taking, a patient and making a request to fetch discrete information about that patient in a request response structure, and is very good for patient applications and some provider applications for fetching data out of an EMR on a specific patient in context. Unfortunately, with its RESTful API structure, it does not yet support event streaming like HL7 does. So it's not a very efficient way to get admit, discharge, transfer, ADT notifications, SIU data for appointments or orders and results. So it's important to understand the differences between version 2 and FHIR and when each implementation is appropriate. So an example of when, an HL7 version 2 interface is very helpful is, we implemented a company that needed to be notified of all of the appointments, that were scheduled at a provider practice. So it's very easy to set up an HL7 interface with that healthcare system, receive all of their SIU messages, and convert those into, a JSON, webhook that we could send to this external application. That way, that external application had all of the appointments booked for that healthcare provider, and then could also update real-time availability in their application for patients to book appointments. Where FHIR is really helpful is when, you're starting with that external application. So we've helped integrate a patient application where a patient logs into an external application, and based on their information, they're able to make an API request to query a healthcare provider, find their patient, and then from there, query out and extract all of the data around their medical history. So conditions, problems, previous procedures, all of that stuff, they're able to then pull in a request response structure into that external patient application. And then there are instances where both can be used, and that's typically around data enrichment. So similarly to where, an appointment is scheduled and sent to an external application, they now have that patient information, and they can make subsequent, FHIR requests back to the organization to fetch additional data and pull it into their application to complete a comprehensive and holistic patient profile. So those are a couple examples of where to use HL7, where we've used FHIR, and where we've used both to solve a interoperability workflow for healthcare providers in an external patient application. I hope today has been helpful in explaining the differences between HL7 version 2 and HL7 FHIR and where each protocol and format is appropriate. Intelli does make this a lot easier for you and your team. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or my team at intelli.io. Again, my name is Dan, and thanks for watching today.